Alrighty, so I told you that we are going to go next to super danger territory, and indeed that is going to be the case after the standard Sveshnikov moves, bishop f6, gf, knight d5, f5, and bishop takes b5. Now that is a boomski and a half, and definitely a very strong message that they are after us and they want to hurt us big time. Now, let me settle the dust. After take, here is the story. We are going to be checked on c7 once. Then we are going to be checked somewhere else again, twice. Then we are going to be checked 700 more times in the various variations that I'm going to demonstrate to you. However, as much as it looks very scary, our king almost never gets into serious trouble. On the other hand, White's king is very often going to be the subject of an attack. So basically the storyline of almost every variation I'm going to show you is going to follow the following script. We are getting checked, our king goes on a walkabout, we have to give some material back, we emerge with very sound counterplay, better piece placement, better endgame, yada, yada, yada. So as much as it looks like they are on a king hunt, trust me when I tell you as a bit of a way of introducing this line, or rather setting your mind to how to approach this. Yes, initially it's going to be a little bit ticklish, but as we move on and getting deeper and deeper into every single line, you're going to realize that White's attack typically runs out of steam. They have to cash in one way of shape or form for some kind of material, and that is going to hand over the initiative. Granted, there will be a few lines here and there where if White chooses to, we will have to give perpetual checks. That's a bit of a bummer, but in the end of the day, if the worst thing that can happen to us with Black is a perpetual check, we live in a very good world. Speaking of which, our very good world is going to be introduced by the move Rook A4. This is partly to dodge the fork, but more importantly, to immediately announce mean counterplay ideas. Now we have got here three big variations, c4, b4, and the knight check. We are going to start with the pawn moves. The pawn moves are very interesting to see at first because they seem meaningless. They both lose a pawn c4 as well as b4. The point is that White wants to give up those pawns, one or the other, in order to then utilize the open b or c5 respectively. So let's see what it looks like. c4 we take. And now they have got two choices, castles or knight c7. Typically, checks are best. Castles gives us an option, and now we can play bishop e7, and instead of going for a very big tour de force around the board, we can simply tuck the king away on f8 against the checks. For example, knight check, king f8, rook c1, rook c5. Important here not to take on c1, allowing the queen to have a look at this square. Queen h5, same idea, and h6. And by now you can see that the dust has settled and White has not achieved enough. Take bishop g5, take. The more pieces we trade, typically the better it gets for us. And f5 is hanging, and the knights are very awkwardly defending each other. Therefore, they depend on each other, which is not a desirable scenario. Black is clearly better. No problems whatsoever. So, rook c1. So once again, we went c4 takes, and here we are looking at the sideline with castles instead of knight bc7, bishop e7. We looked at knight bc7. Now we are going to look at rook c1 first. Rook c5 back again, b4, insisting on the trade on their terms. Rook takes b5. So we don't take c1, we take the knight. Watch why. Takes bishop b7. This is the point that we don't fear the check, because in the end, even though we lose the rook, we regain the rook and we are piece up. Whereas after rook c4 castles, we have a good giggle because they lost the piece for absolutely nothing. Note that despite the scary looks, a4 actually is useless on account of the Zwischenzug the in-between bishop d5, after which the rook just slides back on the b file. And once again, we are a piece to the good, g to the g, as I like to say. So after c4, rook c4, the most sensible thing to do is to give the check in to ensure that our king has to go to d7, which is obviously a bit of a concession. Now, three choices: queen h5, knight b6 check, and castles. Quite frankly, only castles is serious. Queen h5 allows us to give a check, and this is bad news every day of the week for white. King f1 and queen h4. As you can see, we immediately go on the aggressive, and this is the mindset that you need to maintain in this sacrificial line. Don't worry about losing a pawn or another or another. If what that means, and queen f5, same goes, king d8, if that means that we are developing pieces and our army is getting out, it's worth it. Like here, taking on f5, king d8 is already terminal, the queen is hanging, rook f8 is coming, it's checkmate, literally. So white's choices are very limited here. If knight e6, then bishop a6, king g1, knight d4. And against all odds, or rather, now I guess it is because of the odds are now side, we are actually already conducting a borderline checkmate attack. g3, and here comes one of my favorite ideas of the entire course. No worries, friends. Guess who can't take the queen on h4 on account of rook g4 checkmate? And I hope that this line already convinces you about my thesis that we get checked, they get mated. Knight b6 check, queen e6, king b6. This is not the first nor the last time that our king goes on a massive walk around without any consequences whatsoever, because white lacks the pieces to punish us. And that's it. Two pieces to the good, resignable position. That's it. Likewise, if knight e7, we go knight takes e7, knight d5, rook d4. Trades are good news all the time, every time. Yeah, trade, no worries. Give up the pawn, no worries. King d8, no more checks. The white king is miserably placed on f1. We are up a piece, game over. Next. Easy. Okay, so that was queen h5. Knight b6 wins the rook, but is not going to be a happy scenario for white again. We take c7, knight c4, and d5. This move is actually unique to the course, meaning that it's a theoretical novelty, or at least it was at the time of the writing of the course. And it's a very strong move that introduces bishop b4 check. Note how we are going after the king the first given chance we catch our breath. Like right now, white has no threat. First thing you do, let's go after the king. And that is, by the way, not only in the spirit of the Sveshnikov, but in general, just good chess. The king is in the middle, go after it. Now, if queen d5, we go check, we go bishop a6. Note that so good piece activity. King to g1, and here we are going to learn an interesting lesson. Endgames tend to be quite good very often for us when white's development is lacking. This is a textbook case. The AB pawns feel very dangerous, but the reality is that white does not have time to mobilize. Rook g8 is going to be super deadly with the rook on h1 stuck, and this rerouting, hitting both b2 and f2 pawns is also incredibly problematic. And so this variation is really, really bad for white, and we are looking to win this chess game very, very shortly. Okay, so ED is the better choice. Bishop check, king f1, bishop a6. You know the drill, attack, attack, attack. Now, if BC, then check, and this is eerily similar to the previous variation. White has got the same problems. The two bishops are monstrously strong. Monstrously strong. So maybe rook c1 is a better way to guard the knight on c4, in which case we go knight d4. Once again, scary is not a terminology that is going to hold us back from doing the right thing. Yes, it looks like there's a discovery on the c4, but that knight is pinned. Facts are facts. Queen a4. Both bishops are under attack. No worries. Counter punch is the name of the game. The rook is hanging now on c1. d6 check. Very logical to try to stir the pot. King d8. Note that this is our only good move here. Otherwise, either one of those bishops would fall with check, or if bishop takes d6, then queen a5 check is annoying. After king d8, no worries. The queen has to go back. Rook g8. Notice the black pieces. Everybody is on the attack. Everybody. g3, queen h6. Even our retreating moves are aggressive attacking moves. Now queen h3 check is a major problem. And yeah, this is pretty much all she wrote. After king g2, bishop b7, the pieces can be put back in the box. The game is over. This is, folks, how quickly it can go in this line. Very, very cool chess. Okay, so knight b6 check doesn't quite cut it either. And so the main line is castles. And that makes sense. White wants to tidy up and then resume the attacking plans, whether it be rook c1 or b4 or whatever it may be. But one very important motive that perhaps is the best time I show you now is to never ever fall for, and don't even consider, is to take this with the pawn. Because then this checkmate is going to be a very, very sad reminder that if you are careless, your king can get into trouble. But forget about that. Knight d4. Put your pieces in the center. Now, again, it may look dangerous on account of queen a4 check looking deadly, but there is no queen a4 check, and with b3, that blocks the path of the queen to a4. So please do not be afraid of ghosts. It's very important that we evaluate white's attacking chances objectively. And now the objectivity tells us that rook takes c7 is a game-winning threat. Knight a8. Very funny move, but not unusual at all in this system. The idea being that white wants to reconnect the knights via b6. So we go nah, queen a4, white goes yeah, and we go, okay, fair enough, you can retreat the knight, but what good is that for you? And this line again is one of my favorites to demonstrate the idea that 10 checks back to back does not equal to an attack. That equals to 10 checks back to back. And now you will see that our king is going to run to safety on the other side of the board, like so. Check, king f6. Don't take it because then queen d4. Now check, king g7. And now white finds herself in a very awkward spot where, yeah, they are chasing the king, except the queen, the piece that needs to deliver the knockout, is not there to help. And so now we started off walking to the queen side. We walked all the way back to the king side. We played 47 king moves, which typically is really bad. Here, we're completely winning. Completely winning. Because the white pieces, that few of them that are left, are uncoordinated. They're just unable to deliver the deadly blow. Now g3 is forced, take e4, and that's it. White's attack is gone. We play pawn f5 next, and we are up a full piece, and white has got absolutely nothing to show for this. Likewise, ef5, king f5. And no, this is not a joke. Like, honestly, I'm telling you guys that you need to be very objective. King on f5, surely we are losing. No, surely we are not, because the white army is not ready to fight. The knights are awkwardly placed, and in fact, often they end up hanging. Yeah, rook d1, fine, no worries, we take the knight. Thank you very much. The idea is to take on d4, and yes, now things still require a degree of precision, but so what? Queen c2, king g5. h4, king h6. And we walk back to safety. Queen d2 check, king g6. We allow knight f4, but that's okay, because then we can just pull further back all the way to g8. Queen d4, trying to deny the king's path back to safety. But now we play the cheeky rook g8, which is a bit of a attack and defend idea. And now after knight b6, and this is, by the way, the key that we even hang an entire rook. Very, very neat play. And after takes pawn h6, we managed to eke out the ultimate safety path, king h7 or g7 h7, and we will be fine. Also note that as soon as the king moves back onto the h-file, we have got the deadly threat of rook g2. And once you walked all the way back here, you can block the check with bishop g7, and we are up a piece and winning. So one more time. And you can check his side moves with the engine, but we are providing the best moves for white here as best as we could. You just walk to the edge, and then you are safe. You are safe. Not a problem. And here, I believe that other moves may be good enough too, but rook g8 is definitely the one that you want to keep in mind because it creates some very dirty counter threats as well for us, and that allows us to play those very dangerous counter attacking plans along the g file too. Righto, so that's it. I know it looks a bit full on, but worry not, because like you saw, typically almost every single line follows very similar patterns of white gives the checks, and in the end it's not good enough. So on to b4. b4 is well met by rook takes b4. And one thing that we really like, by the way, from Black's perspective about b4 versus c4 is that it splits the AC pawns. So sometimes there are scenarios when those pawns start rolling down. Now that effect is going to be lessened by the fact that they have been split and only the A pawn remains as a passer. So check king d7, usual same old, same old. If they take the rook, then we just take on c7. Knight c6, queen c6, castles, queen e4, and the two bishops will be incredibly powerful. In combination with rook g8, this is a textbook scenario where the initiative has fizzled out, and now it's black taking over, and God save the white king. Okay, so castles. Typically, white likes to maintain this d5, c7 knight combo because they cover a lot of squares around our king. So it makes perfect sense to maintain that stance. Rook g8. We are immediately going on to the aggressive. It almost always is met, by the way, by queen h5, which is not the main line here, because we have here the very powerful counterpunch queen g5. And again, the theme is the same. We invite checks, even if it drops a pawn, because king d8 or bishop e7, either or, would be developing moves. Now, obviously, here king d8 is mate in 1, not recommended, but bishop e7, develop, and now the mate threat is on them. So g3 is forced, queen g6. And now if the queens come off, which they do, after the traits, we are golden. And this is one of those typical scenarios, by the way, where if there was a b2 pawn on the board, then you would be still thinking that white has some chances because of the connected passes running down on us. But no connected passes to be had. Black has the bishop pair and a winning game. So in this position, it's maybe better that they give up the queens already here and head to this end game. But even here, after take e4, the bishop coming to g7, then d4, then c5 is the ultimate location, blockading all kinds of pawns. The other bishop can come to a6 if need be. And yeah, it's just the two bishops are going to be a mighty force to reckon with. So queen h5 is not it, nor is rook b1. But that is a very clever, logical follow-up to b4. So let's have a look at what we have here. Rook takes, queen h4. The mantra remains the same. As soon as we can catch our breath, we go on to the offensive. And here is a prime example when I mentioned that sometimes the best we have is a perpetual check. Here we are already threatening if need be, with rook g2, which is a forced perpetual check with queen g4, queen f3. G3, f4. And that's essentially renewing the same threat. Take on g3, rook g3, perpetual check. Queen b3 stops that. Bishop e7. queen b5. If black mucks around for much longer, we are going to consolidate bishop d8, and that's it. So queen b5 was forced, and yeah, queen h3, knight e7, king e7, and here we have to accept our fate that it's a perpetual check. As is, by the way, here, the immediate queen b5, where we just capture g2, and this is a perpetual check as well. It's unfortunate, but as you can see, the onus is on white. Like, they either try to beat us and they lose, or they accept that the best they can do is a draw, and then fair enough, it's a draw. The main line is knight b4, which the reason why it's our main line is because this is the most frequently played move. But actually here, we are doing pretty well. c3, then we take, and queen c4. And again, you can already see the outline of the attack. The bishop goes to b7, long diagonal aggression on g2. And yeah, white is not sufficiently developed to deal with all the threats on the board. ef, queen g4, a very nifty move to force the queen trade. And yes, they do have the connected passers, but the problem with them is that it's difficult to run them effectively because b5 allows rook a4 splitting the pawns, a very important technique there, which would allow us a handy blockade, and then no worries. Maybe we want to actually throw in bishop b7 first, just develop that bishop, then come across to a4, then activate the other bishop, d5, bishop d6, happy days. So a3 first, bishop b7, f3, rook f4. We want to keep the rook, right? So rook c4 is logical at first sight, but after rook c1, we do not want to trade rocks. So rook f4 is better, and surprisingly, we actually want to eat the f5 pawn. And once again, do not fear the march of the pawns, because d5, bishop c5 check is also going to come handy, and one or the other bishop will be able to blockade the pawns. Okay, so if knight b4, knight d5, then we are going to take, and king e7. And now we have got, again, a fairly large number of variations to consider. Rook fb1 looks very logical. We go f4. Note again the aggression. f3 threatened. Potentially bishop h3 will be also on the cards. Not just yet because of rook b7 though. a4, queen d7. Queen h3 check is the threat. Or f3, g3, queen h3, and then mate. Queen d3 makes perfect sense. Queen g4 also makes a lot of sense, provoking the weakening, and rook g6. This is one of the wildest lines, by the way, in this bishop takes b5 system, because now it really does look like we threw caution in the air and to the wind rather, and the a pawn is running, but rook h6, queen h3 is to be respected. It's very, very, very unpleasant for white. This reminds me of the general mantra of the Sveshnikov, that white tries to win. Well, I can't really call it positional means, but still to some degree it is, by pushing the pawns. But we are having a red-hot go at their king, so I know which side I prefer, for sure. Okay, so that's good news for us. If ef, bishop f5, this looks far worse for white in my opinion. Rook ab, then bishop e6, check, king f6. Usual story, they are checks. This is not an attack, it's just checks. And after we tuck the king away on h8, we have nothing to worry about. And now the a-pawn does not represent any threats whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, we are easily winning. Rook fb1, king f6. a4, rook g4. Now bishop e4 is game winning. So g3, queen c8. We are preparing to drop that queen on the light squares as well. Queen f3, king g6. And we are doing great. Once again, we've had to play a fair few moves, but with the king that is, but no worries. c2 is hanging. You can bring the rook across. We can blockade the pawn here. Ultimately, our pieces will come out, and More pieces beat fewer pieces is going to be our main concept. Okay, last but not least, a4. This looks the scariest because they are immediately sending it. f4. Bishop h3 game winning is on the cards now. a5, bishop a6. I think if we go bishop h3 here, we might get into trouble after g3. And white just lets us capture the material, and now our pieces are stuck, and the a pawn is looking quite a nasty customer. Hence, bishop a6. Still, f4 is meaningful because f3 and then queen d7, queen h3 can be lethal. For example, rook d1, queen d7. This also, by the way, reintroduces, at the very least, the perpetual check idea. At the very least. f3 defends that. And now king f6. That's such a cool move. We have to because queen h3 gets mated with queen d6. So we basically open up the bishop's path, and now queen h3 ideas are floating. c4, bishop e7 first to develop, and now c5, then we go. And then we go. And then we go. That, friends, is a beautiful demonstration of the attacking prowess of black, even in the bishop takes b5 lines. I told you, they give the checks, we give the mates. Okay, rook b1 is better. Oh, this is at least our main line for white here. King f6 again. Do we have a perpetual check with rook g2 here? I believe we do, yes, but we don't want to. King f6, queen a8, and bishop c8. This looks like a retreat, but bear in mind that queen h3 threatening, then bishop g4, bishop f3, nasty stuff. Queen g4, g3, bishop e6. Told you so. Now with bishop e7 completing development and totally securing the king, this looks very, very pleasant for black. And now the idea is simply bishop g4 and f3 and checkmate. Not bad. Not bad at all. Rook b8, h5. We're sending it all. And black is getting mate. No, black is not. White is getting very close to getting mated here. We cut it off here, but trust me, for a human, this position is borderline undefendable. And with that, we jump back to the main line, which will be the immediate check. King d7. And here we have 4 moves, but we only need to look at 2, because both b4 and c4 is essentially transposition into the lines that we have already looked at via the reverse move order. So, queen h5, check. You know this. If we are allowed to give the king a check and keep it in the middle, it's game over. 2 moves here. We can go queen h4 and do this, which is very good. Our main line is actually 97. And this now also is very good. So you pick which way you want to be upper piece and have a great attacking position. So realistically, castles is the only move white has. As soon as that pops, rook g8, non-negotiable. g3 was seen here a number of times, as was c4. We'll have a look at both. Rook e4, queen h5, 97. This, you already know that this is nonsense for white. That's just not good enough. That's it. c4 is the stockfish's favorite move, which is going to lead to a draw, by the way, by force. Queen h4, we hang the rook, but we introduce again the same theme that we are also familiar with. That's going to be a perpetual check. So no worries. Therefore, g3, if white wants to still play for a win. Now f4. And the same story, they are forced to take, and here they can't avoid the perpetual check because we have a mate with the queen on e4, and so it's perpetual check. The main line is queen h5, whereupon we play queen g5, queen f7, bishop e7. We've seen this already many a time. Now, if they trade queens, currently, they have got 4 pawns for the piece. So you would be thinking, surely we are in a world of hurt. No, we're not. f6, we drop the bishop back. The fact of the matter is that, once again, the main theme of the game is the clumsy knights. You want to keep this in mind. Knight b6, king c7, knight a4 is really not that great because now we are on to the king big time. So c3 is best according to the machine. When after knight e2, king h1, bishop b7, we have got incredible piece activity. Knight f4 is to come next. And as you can tell, the pawns are not playing. And that's a very important measure of situations where you are up a piece but down several pawns. You need to constantly ask yourself, do the pawns pose more serious threats than my extra piece? And the answer very clearly here is a fat no. So instead of queen f5, after the moves queen h5, queen g5, queen f7, bishop e7, g3 is going to be our main line when we essentially force a similar scenario. If they take this, which makes no sense in my book whatsoever, then after take, now they have either f3 or knight b6. Knight b6 is pretty bad because we take e4 and now piece activity is off the charts. This looks like the white king is still getting mated with the queens of the board. So, like, this is totally unplayable. And f3, knight d4, c3, knight e6 is also going to be a similar story. b3. Note that here the check is not that great because after takes, again, it looks they have a lot of pawns, but unfortunately those pawns will be split into 47 pawn islands after bishop d3, compelling white to play b3, take, rook here, and the only side that can be better here is black, crystal clear. So b3 is the recommended move, rook a3 and knight b5. Now we pull back, and again, we are very, very well prepared to stop the avalanche of the pawns, and I prefer black here. Knight coming to c5 is going to be very powerful. So, queen f5 is the better take, bishop d8. Again, we are hassling the knights. If knight b6, take, knight a4, bishop f5. Now, this is again absolutely mental stuff because they have got a rook and 3. You heard that right. 3 pawns for the 2 minor pieces, or for the bishop pair, I should say. But work with me. Just have a look at how this unfolds. c3, h5. And all we have, sounds very silly when I word it like that, is a super dangerous kingside attack plan with e4, knight e5, penetration, mate threats. And the pawns are not going anywhere. And the reason for that is because there's a super clumsy knight in their way. And so this position is actually very easily potentially better for black, despite the material imbalance. Even 25 moves in, queens off the board, quintessential Sveshnikov, down material, having all the fun. And so, main line is b3. Again, white opts to further attack the rook and try to send the pawns. Note that bishop c7 loses this rook. So that's why white gets to still maintain this knight formation. But once again, we are now going after the king. f4, bishop b7, de, and we take back, and the advantage is now on our side. We are threatening to play rook c5 and ultimately destabilize the knights. Rook f8 also accomplishes the same thing. Once again, materially, white is looking red hot. Realistically, white is in severe trouble, and good luck for them to survive the rest of this game. So this is, folks, the bishop takes b5 variation. Once again, it is a very lively, aggressive scenario where occasionally it feels that we are getting overrun and overwhelmed. But again, I feel like if you play through these lines a number of times and you remind yourself that we are the aggressors more often than not after we survive the initial few checks, I think you are going to develop an appetite for this line. And rather than being worried about this line played against you, you will appreciate the potential to counterpunch, which I think is indeed what tends to happen more often than not. And with that, friends, we managed to finish off potentially one of the greatest fears of all Sveshnikov players. So whatever comes next should be even more exciting.